Greetings, my dudes. It is I, the person who is here at this current time. Hello. I welcome you all to my domain, my realm, if you will. It's here, this screen. This is my domain. I rule this land with an iron fist and a sword. This is my sword. Fucking come at me. Get snipped. Okay. Bad jokes aside. I'm here. Smite Spells 2, Tags a Cool Edition. This is what we're doing today. We're making the fucking Smite spells. We're gonna make the Smite spells. And you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make the Smite spells good. I know that seems a little far-fetched. That seems a little, you know, a little strange, a little mysterious, a little, how could he possibly make such dog shit spells good? Well, I have a little secret. I have a little, thing, and it's right up here. Tags are cool. And, we're gonna explore what that means over the course of the next hour and 40 minutes or so, whilst we take all of the Smite spells in the game, including some of my own, yeah, we're gonna make them good. That's my mission. That's my goal. That's my aim. That's my power, if you will. I think that is a powerful emote. But so I guess like the initial thing is for there are tags. What about Guildmaster's Guide has tags? Or is this something to do with creatures or spells? What's the shtick there? Let me get an example of a tag, and why I think they're incredible. Because they are one of my favorite mechanics in 5th edition that isn't even a mechanic, and is utilized basically never. I didn't know that. There's a lot of creatures that should have tagged subtypes, but just kind of don't. Like, I'm pretty sure metallic dragons aren't tagged as shape changes, despite the fact that they have an ability that allows them to transform. But I have like the books here. I'm gonna get them from the books because it's the most awkward way I can do it. But I think also is probably gonna be a bit more impactful. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to turn to a random page and find that it has no tags on it. So I'm gonna keep flipping through. This is the monster manual I have here. Still looking. Oh, here we go. Right. Oh, sorry about that. So, here is the 2-page spread on gnolls, right? I'm going to see if this works. See that there? Medium humanoid, gnoll, in brackets. That is a tag. Some monsters have tags, though most monsters don't. Even the ones that should, such as the angels, as Joe was just talking about. And another type of thing, monsters are the most obvious thing with tags, right? You wouldn't consider a tag like a thing, it's like a creature subtype. Kind of like in Magic. The creatures in D&D have them, and they come up if you're a ranger, and you pick humanoid favored enemy, and that's kind of it. There's no other space in the game. Like, creature types come up in spells like Protection from Evil and Good, and Detect Evil and Good, and like Magic Circle and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, there's creature types. You know, fiend, elemental, fey, humanoid. You know, those are very common, and they're a decent. They're a niche but notable number of spells that care about them. But creature tags are very, very different. But there is another thing in the game that has tags. But we don't think of it as having tags because there's only one type of tag that they have, and that's the spells. Indeed. So we're gonna have a look down here. You see, hang on, let me try and. That is Commune, I believe. There's a 5th level divination ritual, and that is a tag. It is the only tag associated with spells in any capacity, and we're going to change that because I am going to make Smite a tag in the effort of making all of these spells actually good. Because the issue with these spells is that they are very bad. Like, unbelievably so. There are almost none of them that are worth casting ever, because they are all concentration and empower your next successful attack, and that is it. And almost none of them scale in any meaningful way. There are some okay ones. Wrathful Smite is distinctly actually kind of okay. It doesn't scale at all, which is a problem. However, the effect that it brings to the table is actually quite impactful. Zephyr Strike, which is a sort of, but not really. See, obviously the traditional Smite spells have Smite in the name, and the honorary Smite spells are a select few ranger spells that work in a very similar way, just aren't called Smites. Zephyr Strike is the most different of them all in that it has a lot of extra weird effects, but it is, I think Zephyr Strike is the one that's going to have to change the most for this to work, because otherwise it's actually going to prove to be quite problematic. So let me just... Oh yeah. So let's go look at the ruling of rituals in 5th edition. I'm gonna go find the text. I should have prepared this, but I forgot to. But it won't take me long to go find it. Also, this is a little too high. Let's bring this down. I can't actually. Hang on. Give me a second. Casting a spell. Here we go. Maybe they're on the next page. I cannot actually find the wording of the rituals. Ritual 5e. Yeah, here we go. The basic rules. They should be in here. Spell slots. Rituals. Here we go. So this is the wording for rituals in 5e. Certain spells have a special tag, ritual. Such a spell can be cast following the normal rules for spellcasting, or the spell can be cast as a ritual. The ritual version of a spell takes 10 minutes longer to cast than normal. It also doesn't expend a spell slot, which means the ritual version of a spell can't be cast at a higher level. To cast a spell as a ritual must have the feature that grants the ability to do so. The cleric and the druid, for example, has such a feature. So basically we want to take So, smites. Certain spells have a special tag, smite. Such a spell empowers your ability, empowers your attack rolls in some specific fashion, and potentially grants other benefits as well. So the main thing here, the reason that all the smite spells are concentration is so that you can't cast all of them on yourself at once and then step around a corner and stab a dude in the neck and apply every single smite spell in the game to him. Right? That is the reason that they are concentration. Some of them actually have reason to be concentration, period. Like Zephyr Strike and Wrathful Smite have ongoing effects that would make sense to be concentration. However, all of the others, the fact that they are concentration makes them awful. And it's one of the many reasons that they are very bad. Whilst under the effects of a smite spell, casting of a spell with the smite tag, casting another spell with the smite tag causes you to lose causes the previously cast spell to end early. So this is what this is. It is a limiter specifically to prevent you from hyper-stacking smites. That is all this is here for. And that is like the point of what this is. And as far as I'm concerned, that's good. We need that. That is a necessary piece to like. So we can remove this, and unless we come up with anything else specifically, this is all we need. We don't need to like. We don't need to add any more rules here. If we come up with any more rules, then we can put them in. But our main thing from here is going to be transforming all of these spells and making them attractive spells to cast. Because very few of them are. Most of them are shit. So we're going to start with some of like the more generic ones. We're going to start with these three, which are the level 1 smite spells. So we'll start with Searing Smite. I think it's probably the best place to go. Let me just grab Misty Smite, which we'll get to later on. So, Searing Smite is a first level evocation. Smite. And it lasts for 1 minute, just flat. Now let's grab the text for our good friend Searing Smite. Where is it? Just need to grab it real quick so I can get the text. Oh, whoops. So this spell seems pretty interesting, actually. The next time you hit a creature with... Because I always assumed this spell was awful, but... flares with white-hot intensity, and the attack deals an additional 1d6 fire damage to the target. And causes causes it to ignite in flames. Start of each of its turns until the spell ends, the target must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, it takes 1d6 fire damage. On a successful save, the spell ends. If the target or a creature within 5 feet of it uses an action to put out the flames, the spell ends. Oh, and it actually scales, so that's nice. This one is honestly kind of bad. Like, I love damage over time effects in 5e because they're highly underused. This might actually be one of the only player accessible damage over time effects in the entire game. Because there are things like, oh, if you enter the area for the first time or start your turn there, they can just leave the area. That's not damage over time. I'm talking about like, you poke them and it's until you do something about this, you're going to take damage every single turn. And to me, that's really, really cool. I think the way we make this good, because I think the issue with damage over time is it needs to be substantial, because otherwise it's just kind of bad. I like the idea of scaling the damage over time in some capacity, but I have a feeling that could be very abusable. Because realistically, you're paying a first level spell slot for what is probably going to amount to what is probably going to amount to, at absolute maximum, 11 damage over 3 rounds. Or 2 rounds? 2 rounds. Because it's a con save, for starters, and the moment they succeed one save, the spell just ends on the spot, no questions asked. And that kind of blows. Especially because con saves are pathetically easy. I think like, I'm not talking about like, oh yeah, you take, 66 damage at the start of each of your turns. I'm talking like, you take, a level 1, a d6 damage is not that much. At level 1 against level, well, no, you're a paladin, you'll get, at level 2, 1d6 damage is not, nothing to sneeze at, but like, you're going to be fighting creatures with hit points in the 30s or the 40s, assuming it's a boss monster, or against like a little goblin or whatever. You wouldn't be casting the spell anyway, because a goblin is not going to survive long enough, probably not even going to survive from your turn until its turn to take that extra damage. Hell, you're just the base damage probably killed it already. I think we're going to do that. Because the damage doesn't... It is now just like guaranteed damage until they do something about it. Or until one of, the boss, you set the boss on fire. One of their minions uses its turn to come up and pat them out. So even if they do that just straight away, right? Even if, the boss's mook, that mook has wasted its turn doing... like stopping some damage, and that's kind of it. And that feels a lot more impactful than, they succeed the save on the spot and you spend a first level spell slot for, you spend a whole ass spell slot for like 3 damage, which fucking sucks. Like, that's the worst. Yeah, like, I think damage over time should be a problem if you let it sit for too long. It shouldn't be, oh god, I cannot even take 2 turns of damage from this. So yeah, I'm along the same sort of lines. I think damage over time should be substantial enough where you have to, where taking that action is actually something you want to do, but not so substantial that you have to take that action immediately, otherwise you are going to die. It's like finding that balance, I think, is very important, but that's the case with all things, really. So, I think immediately removing the, if they succeed one saving throw, the spell ends on the spot. I think that is probably much more reasonable. And I think we can maybe... What do you mean? Like a fair alternative to taking the action? Yeah, I think the issue is, I suppose here, the creature is making the saving throw anyway. I think the saveless damage over time, I think, is more the problem, because here you make the saving throw. If you fail it, you take a bit of chip damage. If you succeed, nothing happens this round, and you don't take any damage, which I think is probably the caveat for this. I think it makes casting this spell worth your time as a second level paladin. Because if this spell falls off, and isn't that good at higher levels, I don't think that's that big of a deal. Because most spells fall off. But at the same time, it should be good at the level you get it. Which, in base, it just isn't. It's conceptually very interesting and looks really cool, but in practice, it's awful. There's 3 separate ways the spell can end. You lose concentration, the spell ends. Your opponent succeeds the save once, they take no damage, the spell ends. And the last one, something uses its action to put the flames out, spell ends. We've removed 2 of those, and now it is either, a creature with really high con is just going to go, I don't care. Taking 3 damage around. A creature with high con is A, going to succeed the save basically every time. And B, is going to have so many hit points, because they have such high con, that even if they fail, taking the 1 to 6 damage is not that big of a deal. Yeah, I think being used on a PC is potentially a bit more dangerous, but at the same time, generally speaking, there are a lot of PCs in a combat, and in many cases, less monsters. Or certainly towards the end of the combat, there will be, at the very, very least. I think this is certainly more powerful against PCs, but when are you going to be fighting a paladin? Because I'm fairly certain also all the pally monsters in the monster manual don't run Searing Smite. Basically all of them have Thunderous Smite or Wrathful Smite. But either way, I think after some back and forth on this, I think this is a good way to balance this spell. I think, like, you cast. I don't know. I'm not seeing like a crazy amount of synergy between this and Holy Weapon. Like, Holy Weapon is just generically good in and of itself. I don't think Holy Weapon really. Yeah, I was saying. Holy Weapon doesn't synergize with anything. Holy Weapon's just ridiculous on its own. So we're going to look at Thunderous Smite next. And I'm fairly certain I don't need to change any of this text, because it's all the same. All of them work. They have bonus action, range, self, components 1 minute, and a duration usually 1 minute as well. And generally only pallies get them, with some exception. Thunderous Smite. Ooh, this is a fun one. This is a fun one. I like this. The first time you hit a creature with a melee attack during the spell's duration, your weapon rings with thunder that is audible within 300 feet of you, and the attack deals an additional 2d6 thunder damage to the target. Additionally, if the target is a creature, a strength saving throw will be pushed 10 feet away from you and knocked prone. The base version does not scale. This should. Because spells should scale. Like, if a spell does damage, unless there's a... okay. The initial extra damage dealt by the attack increases by 1d6. Once you have dealt this damage, the spell ends. So you don't have any GMs who don't read these rules going, oh, you already have a Smite spell active, you can't cast another one. And it's just, because there's a personal pet peeve of mine is having experienced this firsthand before, is GMs who, like, blatantly don't know how the game works, but will say, I'm the DM, so this dumb shit I'm enforcing on you is how it works. Not because I like my ruling better, but because I don't care. Like, that's the kind of GMing I really can't stand. I have a very strong distaste for it, and I think it's real scummy. Because it is just kind of a power trip at that point. Wrathful Smite is one of the actually good one of these spells, but it does suffer the issue of not scaling. It is also Evocation. That doesn't make any sense. It should be Enchantment, given that you're frightening them. You know, that seems. Oh yeah. Sometimes it's an honest mistake, but the thing is, you can always tell when it is. You can always tell when it is. There's a very strong difference between a GM who doesn't know the rules, and when you correct them, they don't really understand what you're talking about, and just go with what they're doing for the pace of the game. And whilst that's annoying, it's not that big of a deal. But then you get a GM who says, well, I wanted this to happen, so I say that's how it works. Go fuck yourself. Especially when they use it to fuck you over. Because that's always how that kind of defense is used, is I want to fuck you over specifically, player. So I'm gonna just, bend the rules of the game because I want to do that. And if you're gonna bend the rules of the game, which is fine, it's the rules are guidelines, be reasonable with it. When I GM, and I tell my players this very openly, I would say at least 1 in every 3 d20s I roll is fudged, but it's always fudged in favor, fairly. I will fudge in favor of the players or against the players, and I will do it pretty evenly. Yeah, I think consistency is very key as well, and communication. Like, if you have an alternate ruling for something, like in my home games, if you stand from prone, that provokes an attack of opportunity. Any player that comes into my game, I make sure that they know that. And if they don't know that, then that's on me for not telling them. Well, I'm pretty open about it. It's never obvious when I do it either, because I just, I roll on the table, like on my desk, and no one sees, no one knows. I mean, 1 in every 3 rolls is probably a bit much, but it's a lot, like a lot, and I will fudge in favor of the enemies or in favor of the players, and I will do it whenever the story, like, whatever's more interesting, because, like, if I roll horribly for a monster consistently for a whole fight, and it's meant to be a cool boss, then everyone's just gonna be like, well, that was a fucking waste of time, and just not care. And it's like, well, that's not fun. That's boring, So I'm gonna make the boss. Oh, it's like, I rolled a 6. Oh, crit, or not even that. Just like, the boss just hits you. Like, there are some GMs who will say, oh, that's that's unethical. And it's like, I don't really care. I'm like, anyone who, like, yeah, I think there's a degree, there's a degree, because it's a fine balance, because if as you speak from considerable experience from being in my game and still basically never being here anyway, like, I'll only do it when it's appropriate. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's there's obviously different degrees of fudging, and some there are GMs who just don't fudge because they just don't do it, and it's like, fair enough, whatever. But there are some DMs who are very adamant that you shouldn't, and it is morally inferior to do so, and in very specific situations they have a point, but mostly you just kind of look at them and go, you run really boring combats, don't you? Because they, regardless of the scenario, they'd never fudge a roll in combat, and it's like, everybody's done it. Everybody's done it once. Whether they liked it or not is another question, but everybody's done it. I mean, you never know. Maybe you just had a turnaround. Your luck has taken a turn, and you've started to roll reasonably well. Because it wouldn't be weird for you to suddenly start rolling okay. Like, it's like, someone would go, oh, Joe has started to actually be able to hit us now. That's cool. Good for him. No one's gonna, But I understand the. It's one of those things that I will defend until the end of time, because so many interesting things have happened in my games as a result of me fudging die rolls, and so many times have I gone into a combat and prepared it poorly, and if I've prepared it poorly, then it is, certainly in my eyes at least, on me to make that combat fun. And if to bring that combat up to snuff, if the enemy is a piece of piss and they are wrecking his face, yeah, like when you do it, and when you do it right, because there is many ways to do it wrong. It's a fine art, or fine balance, I think you have to strike. But when you do it right, you run the best combats, like. Because the best combats is where it is a desperate, like a boss fight, really. Like, it's a desperate back and forth between two opposing sides, where one has the upper hand and then they don't, and then they have the upper hand and then it flips, and you sort of like invent a phase 2. If they wreck the boss too hard, there's a phase 2 now. Yeah, that's pretty nuts. That's pretty nuts. I think Having run zombies before, not to the same quantity, but I've run a fair number of zombies before, just because they're zombies. I try not to fudge fudge undead fortitude, because sometimes it's kind of frustrating for players. I think it's more that just like combats against zombies take way too fucking long at low levels, and people get real pissed off about it. And understandably, because zombies are super boring to fight. +3 to hit, they shamble at you, they don't hit you once, and it kind of sucks. But Wrathful Smite, in other words. Oh, okay. So I remember you talking to me about it, and I was like, did you fudge? I don't remember you telling me you did. I also have the benefit of, I never roll in front of the players. I'm the DM, I get to see your rolls, and everybody else gets to see your rolls, but you don't get to see my rolls. I roll when I like. Thank you very much. That's my sort of philosophy on it, is I'll always roll behind the table. In regards to the work we're actually supposed to be doing, I am a big fan of Wrathful Smite. I think it's a great spell. Even in base, I think it's actually pretty good. And now that this is the one that probably should be concentration, because it is a creature has to use its action to save against the Frighten, which is nuts. Like this is the kind of smite spell that is actually worth casting, and worth the concentration as well. Like, it is a good spell, which is very rare for a smite spell because they're almost all awful. And all we need to do is add some scaling, because if you run out of firsts, you don't want to feel like you completely wasted a second for nothing. So I'm going to work on a couple more of these, and I'm going to take a quick break because I'm hungry. I want to go get food. But the next one on our list are the second level ones, which I believe is Branding Smite. It is. Branding Smite is the second level one, and it scales, so that's nice. So Branding Smite is a second level evocation, bonus action, blah 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 blah. Duration, this one we're actually going to change, like, a fair amount, because the way Branding Smite is a concentration spell that actually uses the concentration that it has. In the, whenever you hit somebody with Branding Smite, and they're invisible, it makes them visible, which is cool. It's a cool ability. It's good fun. The issue is it's extremely niche, and you're not going to want to concentrate on an effect like that. Realistically, can't become invisible again until the spell ends, until the start of your next turn, say. And that's the duration 1 round. Oh wait, fuck. Well, it was 1 minute, there we go. After which the spell ends. So 2d6 damage is nothing particularly exciting, especially given you're spending a second for an extra, like, realistically, unless there is a creature specifically invisible, Why would you cast this when you can just upcast Searing Smite or Thunderous Smite or Wrathful Smite? Because they all have more useful secondary effects, right? This damage is kind of pitiful. In an almost kind of pathetic way. I think we should be doing one of these instead. Because then at the very, very least, it is a clear improvement. 2d6 averages at 7, 2d8 averages at 9. Which is not much of a buff, but its potential bounds of success are much higher. Instead of 2 to 12, you now have 2 to 16. And that 4 damage bump does actually make a substantial difference. Not anything that's going to win you a fight, but it might actually make the spell worth casting. I'm still not really feeling the 2d8. It still feels like kind of nothing, because this effect, this visibleness effect, is cool, and I like it. But it's not worth this spell being just kind of bad. So I think I may instead go 3d6. So you slap a burning hand's worth of damage on top of your smite, which I am a fan of. I like this. I think it's cool. I think it's quite strong. Like 3d6 radiant damage. Oh no, it doesn't bump by 3d6 for every level. Jesus Christ. Ooh, some of these spells, I believe, have a maximum number of damage. Never mind, no, they don't. Yeah, no, I was just me. I put in 3 and then just typed in 3 again out of reflex. But yeah, this like 3d6 damage for a second level spell slot on top of the damage you're already doing as a bonus action. That's pretty good. That makes the spell, again, worth using. It makes it worth your time. As opposed to just kinda not. Because, yeah, it's kinda bad. It was kinda bad before. And I was seeing a lot of people casting it and being like, this seems awful. It does nothing. Just cast the first level. You just prepare Searing Smite and just upcast it to second level. It's just better in every way. Or Thunderous Smite. But, you know, it's the second level one, so it must be better. But it wasn't. It was distinctly worse. Because the secondary effect was functionally useless, and it did the same damage, when instead you could get, you know, pushing them away and knocking them prone, or setting them on fire. That seems good, as opposed to not. The next one is Blinding Smite, and I think we will take a look at that one, and then I will go and grab something to eat. Oh. The next time you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack during the spell's duration, your weapon flares with bright light. The attack deals an extra 3d8 radiant damage to the target. Additionally, time must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or be blinded until the spell ends. And a creature... okay, right. This is... This... As a Constitution saving throw, bearing in mind that most creatures have a very high con save, I don't think this needs to be concentration. Bearing in mind that Blindness Deafness, a second level spell, has this exact effect and is concentration. Now I know this is damage on top, but you also have to hit an attack, then they fail a save, then they're blinded. So part of me thinks no concentration on this. Because blind is a rough condition, but it's not the worst one. Like, restrained is worse, in pretty much every sense of the word. Maybe it blinds them for a round. Maybe it just blinds them. There's no save. It blinds them for a round. that could also be. Hang on, let's just hang on. Oh yeah, blind is still pretty strong, but like it's not, you know, the worst thing you can deal with. So, additionally, the target is blinded until the end of your next turn, after which the spell ends. So it's saveless for a round blind. I say yeah, because most petrification effects are permanent. I think like if a temporary petrification is not that big of a deal because it's like I would say if we just take them on the merit of say it lasted a round, petrified doesn't come close to stunned or paralyzed, because yeah, petrified you don't get a turn, but you're resistant to all damage. Like you just nobody interacts with you for a whole round, and you don't get to interact with anybody else, and that's boring, but it's not. It's yeah, more or less. So welcome in, Libby. Yeah, but no, paralyzed is like being frozen in Pokemon, right? Because you're resistant to everything when you're petrified in 5e. There are very specific circumstances where, you know, your statue can be blasted off a cliff or whatever, but that's like the only instance where petrified is in any way worse than, I would say, obviously ignoring the fact that most petrification or all petrification effects are permanent. If there was a 1 round long petrify, it would not come even close to hold person. Oh yeah. But a stun or a paralysis is worse, because stun, people can have bonuses to hit you, and paralysis, they not only have bonuses to hit you, but they auto crit you if they're within 5 feet, which is, well, it's crazy, is what it is. I think in terms of danger, petrification is probably in the middle, because whilst you lose your turn, nobody's going to waste their time attacking the statue, because by that point you're just a spooky rock. You know, you're resistant to all the damage. They don't get any benefits to hitting you. Yeah, probably. I think that's definitely the case. It's I think this is probably okay. Probably. I will potentially come back to this another time, but for now, we're gonna leave it as is. I'm gonna take a quick break here. I will be back in about 10 minutes or so. So go grab yourselves a drink and the like. I'll be back in about 10 minutes. We're gonna carry on. We're gonna power through the rest of the Smite spells, and before I need to go at about 7 o'clock. But yeah, I will be back. I will be back as soon as possible. Enjoy the break. I don't know, there's not much to enjoy. Entertain yourselves. I don't know. Fuck knows. I'll be back in a minute. See ya. Okay, I return. It's me. I'm still here. I haven't been assimilated. Gee, every time those fucking coins go in, the pogs fly everywhere, and I love it. It's so stupid. Okay. Let us progress and complete all of the Smite spells. Because there are... What are these? 7? 7 of these, and we've done 1, 2, 3, 4. We've done 5 of them, so there's 2 left. There are the 4th level one and the 5th level one. Because apparently the game was printed with like 3 first level Smite spells and then 1 Smite spell for every level thereafter, which seems pretty fucking stupid, to be perfectly honest. Okay, right. Staggering Smite. Fourth level. So 4d6 psychic damage, and they make a whiz save. On a fail, they have disadvantage on a bunch of stuff, and they can't take reaction until the end of their next turn. I'll put after which the spell ends. So even if the spell ends before then, it doesn't. They don't lose those effects because it's till the end of their next turn, not until the spell ends. But it's just to make sure that the spell is done when this effect here ends. And it can be 1 minute, because this effect is cool, and I like it. I like it a lot, actually. I think Staggering Smite is cool. The damage is not great. It's only like, I think something else I want to do actually is lower the damage of Blinding Smite, because I think Blinding Smite is very strong. Because you know it's an on-hit blind. You know, it is a point-and-click blind for a round, and I might put until the start of your next turn, because that, you know, you get 1 turn of effect out of this, right? You're a pally, you hit your first attack, Blinding Smite, your second attack is with advantage, and then you get that thing kick back until the start of your next turn, and then the spell ends. Which, oh god, I tried to sort of move my hair and then made a horrible mess of it. Oh, it's still a bit caught here as well. Let's fix that. Like a weird, like, tufty bit here. How so? Oh, right, okay, no, I see what you mean, yeah. Like, depending on what sort of weapon a pally is using, the more damage that spell technically deals. Yeah, okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, you sort of smite a dagger is very, very different to smiting a fucking maul or a greatsword. Yeah, I think, looking at Staggering Smite, I think this damage is kind of not really that fantastic. It's 4d6. Well, realistically, at this level, you're a 13th level paladin. What this actually is, let's say that you're a paladin, you get sword and board, so you've got a long sword, and you hit a guy. We're looking at 1d8 plus 5, because you're 13th level, there's no way you don't have a 20 in strength at this point, plus 4d6. Equals, well, we're looking at 46 is, so 1d8 is 4.5. I'm editing some of my own stuff, and the stuff from Xanathar's, but that's kind of it, yeah. some of the honorary smites as well, like these. Hang on, here's my list of the ones I'm doing. These are the ones from the base game. These are some of mine. One of these I made on stream a little while ago. But yes, welcome in, Root of All Beers. That is a fucking name. I'm on board. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, these are the ones I'm doing. These are like ranger spells that work in fundamentally the same way. Oh, this needs to be put on here as well for some of these. Oh no, just on that one, that's fine. Looking at 4.5 plus 5 plus 3.5 times 4 is 14. So we're looking at 23 points of damage, single target, with a staggering smite, like on average. Like your average paladin is gonna be a sword and board, you know, long sword, shield, the that sort of shebang, as opposed to dude with greatsword or whatever, or dude with halberd or lance or something. That's gonna be less common, I should think, at least. So let me just look at. I have a calculator for this. Let me just go find it real quick. Oh. Yep. Just make sure. Okay, yeah. So spell level, we're looking at. Trick arrow. Trick arrows are good fun. Like, magical ammunition is criminally underutilized in 5th edition. The predicted damage for a 4th level spell is 33. And this spell costs your action and your bonus action, because you need to spend your bonus action and then take the attack action on it, or hit an attack. So it might be a reaction, so it might actually be really, really beneficial. I suppose you're not spending, whatever, like it costs your bonus action, you're empowering your next attack to do an additional 14 points of damage, which feels kind of redundant, but I suppose it's sort of like damage per round. Oh, okay. I'm thinking maybe bumping this a little. We could maybe go 5d4, but then that makes the scaling kind of bad. I might just go, bam. Just like 17 damage. Seems pretty good. Staggering Smite. And the last one is Banishing Smite, which does not need an upcast. Oh, I've been writing in the right things here. So Banishing Smite is again one of the good ones, and one of the ones that actually makes sense to have, because it is just banishment attached to something else, attached to damage. Oh, it doesn't have the permanent banishing. It's actually notably worse than banishment, because it has a threshold. I mean, let's check. Banish. Yeah, it seems notably quite a lot worse than banishment. I feel like it should have that extra oomph. If the spell ends before 1 minute has passed, target reappears in the space it left or the nearest unoccupied space if that space is unoccupied. Otherwise, the target doesn't return. Oh, well, hang on, actually. We're looking at permanently banishing somebody to a demi-plane here. That's not good. Otherwise, if the target was sent back to its home plane, it doesn't return. And this is concentration for a minute. Because this is the one that's actually worth the concentration. And thus, if it's worth the concentration, it should be concentration still. Just gonna grab a drink. So we can jumble these all up now into alphabetical order. Brand. Oh. Oh, God. So we can cross all of these off the list because they're all done. Now we can move on to the ranger spells. Because these are all just like fairly common ranger spells, and most of them are even worse than the smite spells, somehow. Ranger just constantly gets the short end of the stick. Which is nothing new, to be fair. Just filtering concentration, verbal. Oh. So, we are looking at Ensnaring Strike to begin with, which is a wonderfully very bad spell. Ensnaring Strike. Do they fix the Beastmaster? I don't know, I mean, fixing the Beastmaster is not really a doable thing, to be honest. I think there is no version of the Beastmaster that is still the Beastmaster that is good. Oh, Bladesinger has been a thing for years. Like, I didn't even read the whole sentence before I knew you were talking about Bladesinger. Bladesinger was in Sword Coast. Was one of the first books they ever put out, and it's awful. They were like, oh yeah, we're going to nerf Bladesinger, and then they made it better. They gave it more uses of like some of its abilities, and that's literally all they changed. Because wizards are just kind of just completely incompetent sometimes, you know? It just kind of be like that. It just kind of be like that. So let's look at our good friend Ensnaring Strike. It scales, so that's a fun start. Oh, I didn't even know scribes was a thing. Or more specifically, I didn't know it was in Tasha's. But I don't allow any of the other wizard schools into my home game because they already have a school for all the schools of magic. That's the flavor. Any of the others are pretty stupid. Welcome in, Katie. Welcome in. I think Ensnaring Strike is actually not that bad. I think it's the fact they do it for free. I think that the ability to do that is cool, but the fact that they can do it for free is pretty nuts. And I think it's less about the damage type. I'm pretty sure it's their ability to change the saving throws, which may have been taken away from them. But to my memory, they can change the saving throw, like they can change a con save into an int save, which A, doesn't make any sense, and B, is insane, because the whole thing is like a lot of the con spells are a lot of like Fireball is balanced to the fact that it's a dex save, and a lot of creatures are good at dex, and any creature that isn't good at dex has enough hit points with taking damage from Fireball. Oh, they must have changed it then, which is good. So they did actually nerf School of Scribes, so that's good. They did actually do it, so I'm very happy about that. Yeah, I like the ability to change damage types. I think it's cool, but it shouldn't be free. It should be an X per day kind of thing. Like, you know, I cast Fireball on the Devil, but I change it to Lightning. So my bet is it lets you change things to Thunder, so you can just choose Thunder every time, because there's basically nothing in the game that's resistant to Thunder. Because Thunder is, like, probably the best damage type in the game. It's just so, like, rarely utilized, it mostly doesn't matter. I think it's like air elementals are maybe resistant to it, and that's it. I mean, if people are metagaming, then that's a whole separate thing. Like that has like that shouldn't be a factor at your table. If you have people metagaming monster resistances, then that is no fault of the feature. That is the fault of the player and the DM for not doing something about it. That I don't think is an issue at all, because that is an issue at the table that the Wizards has no business to be dealing with. I don't know though. There's a lot of creatures that are just outright immune to Force. Obviously, Force is still a very close second, but I think Thunder beats it out. I think. I'll just double check, but I'm fairly certain that Thunder is actually better. Yeah, but it's the same for Thunder though. I'll have a look. Let's take a look. Thunder resistance or immunity to Thunder. Oh wait, no. There's actually a lot of creatures that are resistant. Oh wait, no, hang on. I still have. That's a lot of creatures. That's a surprising amount of creatures. Is there anything immune to Thunder, I suppose? There's a few. Some, like, air elementals and, like, Jinn and shit like that. Yeah, no, I guess you're right. I'll say I was absolutely certain that there wasn't any, but, there are 2 things resistant to Force. Wait, no, there isn't, never mind. It's from another source. And immunity, there's... The only creature in the monster manual that is immune to Force damage is the Helmed Horror, and that's it. So yeah, no, Force is just blatantly the best. Back to the task at hand, though. I think the issue with this spell is it doesn't do damage on hit. Yeah, more or less. So yeah, this is how we That actually makes the spell really good. And we're going to put concentration on it, because Ensnaring Strike is actually kind of worth it. It's just not very enticing because its damage isn't auto. It doesn't, you if they succeed to save, then you spend a spell slot to do literally nothing, which there are a lot of spells that do that, but when it's a spell that buffs your attack, there should never be an instance where a spell that you cast to buff your attack doesn't actually do anything. So yeah, Ensnaring Strike is just Ranger, to my knowledge. Yes, just Ranger. I mean, Ancient's Paladin gets access to it, which is sensible. Hail of Thorns is the next one, and is, I think, the worst one of... Well, as you know, Lightning Arrow is the worst one of all of the ranged ones, because Lightning Arrow is awful. Hail of Thorns has the highest capacity to be good, but is mostly quite bad. Hail of Thorns is also the only one that cares about the type of attack that you make, which I don't think is an issue. Oh, Hail of Thorns does scale. Like, maybe it isn't that bad then. The Ranger spell caps, but I don't think it needs to because none of the others do. This is the spell I was thinking of, and I was like, oh, don't these all cap? But no, only this one does, and I think it's kind of unnecessary. Like, obviously there is kind of like, the high level wizard takes, takes 2 levels in Ranger for some reason, and picks up a bow for some reason, and shoots somebody with a 7th level Hail of Thorns. But like, if you invest that far just to do that, you may as well just fucking do it at that point, right? Because it really isn't that big of a deal. Hail of Thorns seems legitimately very good, actually. Like, almost like actually really good. It does more damage than all of the other Smite spells, and does it AoE as well. Like, it's a small AoE, but it's an AoE. And it is the only AoE one to my knowledge, and obviously it's limited to ranged, but like, ranged is the premier way to play the game anyway, so why not just do that? Yeah. Yeah. As what I was saying before, that it's capped so that wizards can't like multi-class into Ranger to get this spell. But like, why would they ever do that? Why would you take 2 levels in Ranger just to get Hail of Thorns so you can cast it at 6th level? That seems so pointless. Yeah, I think just removing concentration from Hail of Thorns makes it like actually a good spell. Which is nice, like it's nice that it's actually kind of okay. Because I think the issue is a lot of these spells are really cool, especially the Ranger ones, but they fucking suck because they're all concentration, and especially when you're a Ranger, when your only good spell is Hunter's Mark and it's concentration, you're never gonna cast any of these spells because you're gonna lose Hunter's Mark every time you do it, and it fucking sucks. The absolute worst. We're going to next look at Zephyr Strike, which certainly in my opinion is the best one, is the best Smite spell, and I didn't even realize it did damage until today. Oh my god, yeah, they changed this. Oh yeah, this spell's actually really good. Well, it certainly seems it anyway. It certainly seems just to be like blatantly the best one. think I got a text earlier on this. Oh. I need to reply to that in a minute, so sorry. Oh, the bot has reminded people that they can follow. Because apparently that's something you're supposed to do for like logistics or whatever. I don't fucking know. I don't take this very seriously. I just do it because I like it. Streaming is what I'm talking about. I just, you know, I like to dick around on stream, and it's a good time. It's a good time. Until the spell ends, your movement doesn't provoke. Right. Okay, this is what I'm gonna, because this spell needs a total rework to work within the Smite system. You move like the wind. Once on your turn, you may grant yourself advantage on your next weapon attack. I don't think the extra damage is necessary. Like, it certainly doesn't need to be that high anyway, because it seems kind of nuts. Like 1d8. It's just distinctly better than the other. Well, actually, well, it doesn't have any special effects, so I guess that's kind of a factor. Okay, right. Yeah, it doesn't have any. No, it does. It buffs you like by a lot. You grant yourself advantage on your next weapon attack. Once per turn. When you do, on a hit, this attack deals an additional Additionally, when you you do not provoke attacks of opportunity until the end of your turn, and when you make the empowered attack hit or miss, your speed increases by 30 feet till the end of your turn. This has been the hardest one to adapt thus far, by some margin as well. Until the end of your turn. On a hit, this attack deals an additional 1d8 force damage. Additionally, you do not provoke attacks of opportunity until the end of your turn, and when you make the empowered attack, hit or miss, your speed increases by 30 feet until the end of your turn. I like this. I think this is... Once you have gained this benefit, when this turn ends, the spell ends. Or when these effects end, the spell ends. So there we go. That's probably the best way to do things. And finally, there is Lightning Arrow, which is distinctly the worst one, because it's really bad. Like, really, really bad. It's conceptually really cool. In practice, it's awful. Almost laughably so. I'm not even sure if there is like much of a saving grace to this spell. Maybe I'll read it and be like, oh, holy shit, it's actually really great, but I have a feeling that's not going to be the case. Lightning Arrow. 1 minute Ranger bonus action, blah, 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 blah. Oh, shit. Whoop. The next time you make a ranged weapon attack during the spell's duration. The next time you make a ranged weapon attack during the spell's duration, the weapon's ammunition or the weapon itself, if it's a thrown weapon, transforms into a bolt of lightning. Make the attack roll as normal. The target takes 48 lightning damage on a hit or half as much damage on a miss. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay, this is the kind of spell where just removing the concentration instantly makes it kind of okay. Whether you hit or miss, each creature within 10 feet of the target. It doesn't say each other creature. It's very ambiguous here, but it would include the target. Must make a dexterity saving throw. Each of these creatures take. This is kind of a better ice knife, actually. This is actually kind of good. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay, even in base, this spell's actually, like, really good. And is almost just worth dealing with concentration for. But now that it doesn't have concentration, this spell is actively fantastic. So everything I said before about Lightning Arrow being a giant pile of dog shit, this spell is really good. It's really good. Yeah. Yeah, this is see now, oh, this should be listed as third. Something I want to do is I want to make a thrown weapons ranger, like a thrown weapons ranger who uses hand axes. That's something I want to do. It's really bad, but I want to do it. It sounds really fun. Because I love the hand axe, like a Viking kind of ranger, you know, with like a tomahawk kind of situation. I know the Vikings didn't call them tomahawks. I think that was that's the Native Americans. But even so, I think that's pretty awesome. Arcane Arrow, Cyclonic Strike. Right, so now we're going to look at some of my Smite spells, because I've made a few, and I tried to make them all just kind of good within the context of almost like some of these are in some of my older products. Basically, for those of you who like are new here or whatever, I release stuff on the guild, the DM's guild. I have released things in the past, and I'm releasing things in the future. I'm currently working on something with Joe, actually, who's in here. And AJ, who I don't think is here anymore. I think she popped in earlier on. Doesn't look like she's still here, at least. I make a lot of spells. That's kind of like my thing, is I like making spells, and I make a lot of spells. So I've made a lot of spells, and that does include a decent number of Smite spells, some of which for rangers, namely Toxic Strike, Arcane Arrow, and Cyclonic Strike, and some for paladins, namely all of these 3 Smite spells, one of which I made on stream a few months ago. So we're going to start with Misty Smite, because it's already in this document, so I can just go, woo, just move it straight here. Bonus action, right, so Conjuration, Smite. Bonus action, Self-Verbal, 1 minute. The next time you take the attack action during the spell's duration, may briefly turn into a cloud of mist and teleport up to 30 feet to an occupied space you can see before or after you make your first attack as a part of that action. once you have teleported in this way, the next time you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack during the spell's duration, you force the target to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failure, the target suffers 2d8 force damage and disperses it into the same fog, forcibly teleporting it to an occupied space you can see within 30 feet of it. On a success, the target suffers half damage and is not teleported. After you have dealt this damage, the spell ends. Once during the spell's duration, when you take the attack action, you may briefly turn into a cloud of mist. Okay. Yeah, I think this kind of fixes it. Like, this aligns it with the new system of the Smite spells, and makes them quite exciting, in a way that I think is actually really cool. My next look is going to be... Right, so let's... with Misty Smite, we're going to look at Toxic Strike, I think. Methinks. Let me just go into my own index for my spells. Now, Toxic Strike is in the up-and-coming Archive of Esoteric Secrets 2, which is completely finished. I'm just waiting on the art, which AJ is a very busy woman, and thus has a lot of shit on her plate. So I imagine it will probably be out in, like, well, my plan is for it to be out Q1 next year. 160 spells, because I know naught but my own suffering. It's a good time. It's a good time. So, hang on, there's Toxic Strike, Rangers. The next time you hit a creature with a weapon attack before this spell ends, a venom forms upon its edge, seeping through the target's flesh and open wounds, forcing it to make a Constitution saving throw. On a failure, the target becomes poisoned for the duration. While poisoned by the spell, the target suffers 1d8 poison damage at the start of each of its turns. Okay, this is an alternate version of poisoned for the duration and no concentration. Oh no, that's... I think maybe we keep the concentration on this one. But yeah, they get poisoned, and the damage scales. Damage over time scales is pretty scary, but is the kind of thing that makes this spell actually pretty decent, as opposed to kind of bad. I think this damage is maybe a misnomer. I think this should probably be only a d6, just because of, especially with this system at least. In base, I think it's probably fine as a d8, but with this system, it should probably be probably be a d6. Oh well. Searing Smite, you slap it. Well, no, he only set him on fire. Yeah, no, we'll keep it a d6. Keep it a d6. Next one on our list, or my list, more specifically, is we'll look at Arcane Arrow, which is another Ranger one, which I am actually a big fan of. I like Arcane Arrow a lot. I think it's good fun. Right, let's get Hail of Thorns. I think is probably the best way of looking at this. Arcane Arrow goes right at the top. Evocation, 1 minute Ranger. The next time you make a ranged weapon attack during the spell's duration, the weapon's ammunition is charged with pure magical energy. On a hit, the projectile deals an additional 1d6 force damage to the target before the arcane energy leaps to another creature of your choice within 10 feet of the original target. Make a ranged attack against the second target. On a hit, that creature takes 1d6 force damage. And it scales. Initially this isn't that exciting, because it is actually, distinctly kinda worse than Hail of Thorns, but it scales very nicely, because both instances of damage increase as you upcast, which is pretty decent. And I think with this buff, this 1 minute duration buff, actually makes the spell really good. Cyclonic Strike is getting used in my home games even in its original form, because it's actually really good. And when a Smite spell is good in base, well, that's fucking great. That's just great. Where is my good friend Cyclonic Strike? The next time you hit a creature with a weapon attack before the spell ends, the attack unleashes a burst of wind in a 30-foot long, 5-foot wide line originating in the target space and extending away from you. Each creature caught in the area, including the target of the original attack, must make a strength saving throw. On a failure, each creature suffers 2d10 bludgeoning. Oh, this is a second level spell, by the way. I should have mentioned that. On a failure, a creature suffers 2d10 bludgeoning damage and falls prone. That should be falls plural. There's a spelling error there. On a success, a creature instead takes half damage and does not fall prone. And the spell initially does not scale, but I think it probably should, because scaling is good and fun and just makes spells more interesting to cast, because if a player has a favourite, it shouldn't become useless at later levels because it doesn't scale. I think this damage might be a little high, because it is just a blatantly better version of Hail of Thorns. Oh, I didn't see your message, but yeah, sounds cool. Homebrew link. Changes the terrain with. This seems quite confusing. I'm not entirely certain what the effect of the arrow is, because it definitely seems to do direct damage. In that it's not very clear as to how the wind works. Hang on, I need to get going quite soon. But I will do a little bit on this. Hang on. These arrows don't do direct damage. Instead, they conjure up a glacial wind in a 30-foot radius around the target. Oh. Upon hitting a creature with an attack roll with this magical arrow, the attack deals no damage as a glacial wind spreads out in a 30-foot radius surrounding the target. Each creature caught in the area must succeed on a DC. Magic items generally don't have scaling DCs, they'll have a set one, just as like a general point of design. We'll say probably 15 is probably fair. These arrows seem like at least uncommon. A DC 15 should probably be Constitution saving throw, given that it's just wind. Like, you can't dodge wind, but you can withstand the wind, especially because it's cold. Cold is generally con saves as opposed to dex saves. Must, DC 15 Constitution saving throw, or just be must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw. On a success, or on a failure, a creature suffers divided by every 5 feet the wind occupies that. Yeah, generally damage doesn't work in that way, because if the player can choose the distance the arrow travels, then they will choose to shoot the arrow at the feet of the enemy to create a 5-foot cube of 20d8 cold damage. And if they can't choose the range, then there's no point in saying it divides up among the range when you can just set a damage. A failure, a creature suffers, like a reasonable amount is like 3d8. 3d8 cold damage. Or half as much on a success. At the turn of each hour, if you carry more than 5 arrows of the chill peak, you suffer 12d12 1d12 cold damage for each arrow you possess above 5. Yeah, so these are like conceptually very cool, and I like them. Like arrows that don't just do flat bonus damage and have some kind of actual effect. That's cool. But I think you want to stick to simple stuff, just for the sake of like a player that reads that is like that reads about 20d8 cold damage being divided over 5-foot squares. That's going to be a nightmare to calculate. And players will certainly, and whilst I'm not saying this is something players should be doing, but players, if they see something and they just don't clock it, they just won't use it. Players, a lot of players are just notorious for, if they don't understand something on a first read, they'll just never use it, and then they'll forget that they even have it. And whilst that's not a good thing, and I don't think players should do that, they do, and they will. But a path is an AoE. I just saw the message from before; it didn't show up on the stream. If you want to make it a line, which is a type of AoE, then you can do that, but you have to define it. If it travels out in a line, then that's fine. If it turns the arrow into a line of cold wind, then that's cool. That works. I like that a lot. Hang on. So like when you make an attack roll, a ranged attack roll using one of the arrows, instead of making the attack, the arrow flies outwards in a 90-foot long, 5-foot wide line of glacial wind. So, like, if you want a line of general danger, then that's how you do it. It's still an AoE, but you're sort of sacrificing your attack to fire this arrow and do a line of effect. And this will solve most of your issue. And also, I like this a lot, but be aware, I like this effect of doing damage to people who of people who want to stockpile like a million of these. That's cool, but a bag of holding will, they just stick it in a bag of holding and they can have a dozen of these. At the start of combat or before they go into combat, they can pull out 5 of them, put them in their quiver, and then start combat every single fight with 5 of them. So do be aware that is going to be a workaround that players can use, and it will work, because a bag of holding is a separate plane of existence, and players will get real pissed off if you tell them they still take damage from that, and rightly so, because that's how the bag of holding works. Same with stuff like portable holes and handy haversacks and all that shit. But yeah, I like these, but you want to keep it simple, and you want to keep it to the language that the game uses. And obviously, it takes a long-ass fucking time to familiarize yourself and change your vocabulary so that you can stick to the game language. But the more in keeping with the game language you are, the more, like, the less problems at the table you will have of players going, I don't understand what I'm looking at. But they'll never tell you that. They just won't use it, ever. Yeah, that's also, I think Extreme Cold is even more of a D12 damage is a lot at low levels. But at high levels, it's like, I take 2d12 damage, okay. But at high levels, they just go buy a bag of holding, I guess. Or put them in a box or something. Put them in a heated box. Or, if they're an artificer or whatever. The players will come up with some kind of workaround. And if they do, then great. That means they're using your shit. They're interacting with your content in some capacity, which is even better than them just doing nothing and just kind of accepting that the limit of 5 is a thing. But yeah, I'll DM this to you. There you go. I'll send it as one big old block of text. Whatever, it's fine. But yeah, I was gonna say, I do need to get going now though, because I am late. I have somewhere I need to be. I will sort out the rest of these. Cyclonic Strike, I think I touched on. I'm not going to do another stream where I just do these 2 smites. I'll probably post these to Twitter at some point. But yeah, I hope folks have enjoyed the stream. You can drop a follow or a sub or whatever, the other stuff. You can press the buttons if you want to press the buttons. You don't have to. I'm not your fucking dad. Like I ain't gonna make you. I'm streaming a bunch later on this week. During the week, I'm not streaming much at all. But later on this week, I am streaming a whole bunch. I'm streaming some Magic stuff on Friday. I'm streaming Hades Saturday evening. Sunday afternoon, I'm playing the best stealth game of all time. And then in Sunday evening, I'm finishing my Monk rework. Because I'm going to outright just finish it on Sunday evening, and I'm going to go for as long as it takes. If I'm still streaming at midnight, that is how long it takes. It probably won't take that long. It'll probably only take me about an hour or an hour and a half, and then I'll go do something else for a couple hours. But yeah, I hope folks have enjoyed the stream. I'm going to see if there's anybody to raid. I don't think there is. Oh, somebody has messaged me. I will have a look at that in a second. No, there's nobody to raid, so I'll head off here. Hope folks have enjoyed the stream. If you're looking for more D&D homebrew stuff, I'll be back on Sunday evening, and then next Monday. I do these every Monday, 5 to 7 GMT. I don't know, like whatever your area is. Use a time zone calculator. I have a thing in my about section as well. That'll probably do it for you, maybe. I don't know. 5 p.m. GMT, not BST, GMT. Those are two separate things. But yeah, I'm going to head off now. Enjoy the rest of your evening, because I have a game to go to, and I'm very late, and they're probably real annoyed with me. But yeah, see ya.